Exploring the weekly theme, If I Loved Myself Then. And today we move into the layer of the mind. And in Yoga Nidra, or in the understanding of the koshas or layers of consciousness, this would be the Manomaya kosha, or the layer of the mind. And we're going to be exploring what it means to really embrace our thoughts, to look at the purpose of the mind, to think and to know, and then how to love that experience. Oftentimes we judge our thoughts. We wish that they could be calmer. We wish that they could be gentler. We wish that we could be more happy, more joyful. And to really embrace the mind and what is naturally happening in the mind can make a very big difference in terms of your experience of this life and your experience of connection with self. So I'll just wait as we gather, and then we'll go into the topic. So this one isn't going to be as long of a meditation. I think I said that yesterday, and then it ended up being a long one, but this one won't be that long of a meditation. I'm going to speak more to the concept of loving our thoughts and really understanding what love means in terms of this context that we're speaking of. So welcome to our chat and meditation today. So this weekly theme of If I Loved Myself Then has really brought up a lot personally in me. A lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings, a lot of frustrations, and definitely self-judgment, also judgment of others. Like, it just triggered a lot for me. And more than likely because we're in a time where there is so much shifting continually. There's so much that is coming at us that we're having to deal with and to respond to. And it's difficult to respond in a really conscious way all of the time. We are so programmed. Our mind is this beautiful processor of information, and it responds really quickly. So it can be very difficult to catch it before we go into old habits and patterns and beliefs and memories and even traumas. You know, this is a time where there absolutely is traumatization happening. Dr. Gabor Mate shares that trauma is anything at all that causes disconnect from the present moment and or from the self. And so it's so simple to understand it that way, and just to understand that it is a disconnect. As soon as there is a disconnect that has happened, we have experienced trauma. And in terms of how the mind responds to that, how the mind responds to a lot of these things that are happening, it reminds us what has happened in the past, or what we are fearing might happen in the future based on the past. So speaking again to these functions of the mind. So the mind's functions are to think and to know. That's just what the layer of the mind is all about. The mind is designed to process information and help to draw on past experience and then project it to the future. So it's really designed to do that for us. So to shut off thoughts or to turn away from this process is to really kind of deny that experience of the mental layer of self. Good morning, Paula. So nice to see you here this morning. So when we understand this natural functioning of the mind, it really helps us to understand better why certain things happen, why we have triggered responses, why we react so strongly in certain situations, especially when a trauma is triggered or any strong experiences in the past, and also why it's so effing difficult to change habits, to change beliefs, to move through patterns and to repattern. It's just because that's the mind, the more that we program the mind, the more that it's designed to operate really quickly. And that's so important, because if we don't have that, then we are, I like to think of it like a computer. Like when you start up your computer, you don't have to load every single program, right? You don't have to, load Safari. Well, now I'm thinking of my Mac. I used to think of this in terms of my PC, but so you don't have to load Safari and then all of your word processing programs, and you don't have to load any of the apps, and like it's all there for you. It's all preloaded, pre-programmed, so that when you engage with it, it happens automatically. Imagine how slow our life would be, how difficult it would be to move through every situation if we had to evaluate everything and load it. So the mind is designed in this way as a processor to really help us better understand our environment and our experiences. So it's there for a reason, and it's there to support us. So I'd like to speak briefly to the concept of love and what love means in terms of our belief patterns. Because this whole week, that's our exploration, is what it means to love ourselves, what it means to embrace our inherent worthiness. So to me, I've always been a student of love. I've been so curious about it for my entire life, of how we all relate to this concept of love differently, how we can engage with love with self, and what it means when we're out of sync with love. When I was in university, I even wrote one of my main papers on the concept of what is love. Like it was everything to me. I've just always been so curious about it. And so a couple of things that have really stuck with me are that love is about acceptance. So love is about being with what is, without needing to change it, without needing it to be different, but simply to love what is. And this is something that Byron Katie speaks about a lot. So she has a book, Loving What Is, and it's been so influential in my life in helping me understand my beliefs and my thoughts and all of these patterns. And how essential it is that we accept things for how they are, or how they show up in our life. Because anytime that we are out of that space of acceptance, anytime that we wish that things are different in this present moment, then we feel that separation. We feel that disconnect, either from self or from the present moment. And as I shared a bit earlier, that's what Dr. Gabor Mate shares as trauma. And as soon as trauma comes in, it's our natural human response, our mind's response, to react with coping mechanisms. So to react in a way that is meant to help us, but is somehow disconnected from the truth of who we are in this present moment. So to really accept is a difficult thing, because we have these pre-programs, because we have these patterns and these beliefs and these habits. And so the practice is about being with them. And the meditative practices that I share, and that I guide you in through this group, and then also teach you how to offer through the meditation teacher training, are all rooted in connecting with self, the truth of self. So your authentic understanding, your authentic expression of truth, and then allowing that to be the connection point, allowing that to be the point of understanding and of acceptance. Yeah. So to put it simply, to me, love is acceptance. And I can draw this out into like a really big, beautiful picture. I can add in words like grace and loving kindness and gentleness and comfort and touch and words and communication, conscious. Like you can really expand on it. But for me, that's the center of it, is acceptance. So when I'm speaking of really looking at the mind and loving the mind, So if you were to love the mind completely, so if you could choose to love the mind, what would you be loving? What would you be accepting? What in your mind are you finding difficult now to accept? What thoughts, what experiences, what feelings are in there that you are struggling to accept? So that's the inquiry. That is the process of looking deeply into what it means to be with the thoughts, to be with this layer of consciousness that is the mind. And so that's the inquiry that we're going to do today. So this is going to be a short inquiry, but I'd like to guide you into the space of practice so that you have that more calm nervous system that is receptive to being able to inquire. So you can set up your seat however feels good for you. And we will move through this really brief and supportive practice for our thoughts. So if it feels available for you right away, you can start to close down your senses. If you need a bit more time, just soften them. So start by drawing attention, focus of your senses more inward. So you can either drop the gaze, soften the gaze, start to become aware of the sense of touch as it relates closer to your body, the sense of sound, once again, closer to or within your own body. So just start wherever you are at. If you're already sleepy or you're feeling really relaxed, it's easy to shut down the senses. But if you are in a heightened nervous system experience, if you are feeling either chronic stress or really present moment acute stress, then this is going to be more difficult and going to take a bit more tenderness and time. And even understanding that depending on what we are experiencing, we need to relate to it differently. So if we are experiencing stress, it is not going to be as easy to move into the space of meditation. It's going to take more attention, more time. And this is why it is so important. This is why it's so helpful to practice. This is why it is called a practice, because there are many times when we simply don't want to practice. We don't want to turn inward. We're caught up in the experience of stress or the experience of excitement or the experience of outward looking. And I think of this as like the drama of our life. And it's okay, that's simply part of our experience, but oftentimes we get taken for a ride and we stay on that train of drama for a lot longer than is healthy for our body mind. So start to draw attention, awareness to your breath. The breath helps to really trigger that relaxation response. So the deeper you breathe, the more that you soften into your breath, the more that your nervous system relaxes. And this allows us to really open up to new possibility in the mind, in the thoughts, so that we can explore without being in that stress state. So, anytime you are doing self inquiry work, anytime you are trying to understand something, if you're feeling confused or uncertain, It's really important that you first move out of that stress state, that you calm your nervous system. If you don't, then you will be thinking from the space of fear. You will be thinking from that nervous system response of fight, flight, or freeze. So, if we want to look more deeply, we have to first take the time to set up calm, to set up relaxation. Now that we are starting to move into this space together, I invite you to notice what thoughts are present for you. So, what thoughts, what memories, what experiences have been or are right now very active for you? Just allow them to be there, allow them to be seen, allow them to be present. And as you start to embrace your thoughts, you might notice that there are thoughts or experiences that you'd really rather prefer not to have there, that you would really rather turn away from or just let them drift away. But the practice here is to be with what is, to welcome them in, knowing that they are the entry point, that they are the true way into this deeper connection with self, with this state of love, with this state of ultimate acceptance. And now I invite you to consider a thought that is potentially stressful for you. So, a thought, an experience, a memory that is weighing heavily right now. You might find a feeling or an emotion also located in the body that's related to this. And if you do, you can place your hand there. So you can touch into where it's being stored in the tissues. So considering this function of the mind and then also relating it to the body. If you can't locate it, that's okay. But if you feel it, then touch that area. And just breathe into this space. Really be with it. Now I invite you to inquire into this. So if I loved this thought, this experience, this memory, if I loved this, then how would I think? How would I respond? How would I speak? How would I act? And allow that inquiry to reveal what it would feel like, what would it be like to love this. So, this is the inquiry and this is the practice that you can engage with any time that you feel stress in your thoughts, anytime you feel yourself turning away from a feeling, anytime you are not wanting to remember something, not wanting to deal with something. You first bring yourself into a state that is more relaxed, more open. And then you inquire into this space. You inquire into how you can bring acceptance here, how you can bring love to this space, this thought, this memory. To close this practice, we'll take 3 really deep breaths together. So inhale through the nose, exhale audibly. 2 more. Inhale through the nose. 1 more. Complete release. Good. And so we'll carry this relaxation, this calming, this awareness with us into our day. We'll bring this concept of acceptance, of loving what is, into our day. You can open your eyes, you can come back to the space. And I invite you to consider this, to really consider what love means to you. And if you can bring that quality, that understanding of love to your thoughts, to your mind, to this layer of consciousness that is designed to think and to know, that so often we struggle with, we find that we are very uncomfortable with. So I invite you to bring that into your day, bring that into your experience. And tomorrow's meditation, we're going to be going into the layer of energy. So that's the pranamaya kosha, and really exploring what this movement of energy means, and how we can circulate love, basically, and engage with the energy of love. So really powerful practice. And then again on Friday, we'll be connecting in with we'll be connecting in with our creative layer of self as it relates to love. So imagine that. Imagine this process that we're going through to finally come to this space of creating from this place of ultimate love, love of self, love of what is. So thank you. And I want to mention and remind that I've extended the early bird for the meditation teacher training, and there are absolutely options for payment plans and for sliding scale. It starts in May, so definitely connect with me soon on that. That we already have the first 6 weeks open, so you can start anytime. Yeah, reach out. And I'm so glad that you love this theme, Paul. Me too. It really helps me to connect more deeply in with myself and see where I've separated from truth within. So, yeah, really powerful. Thank you for practicing with me this morning. I wish you such a beautiful day, and I look forward to connecting again tomorrow.